Hello and welcome back to our devotion time today. And as we gather together, I will be reading out of the book, The Way Back to Mayberry. And today's title for our lesson is Center of Attention. And the episode that we are talking about is Barney and the Choir. Today's scripture comes from Proverbs chapter 16, verse 18. Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. The Mayberry Choir is in trouble. The lead tenor, Ralph Pritchard, has just dropped out because of a work conflict. This couldn't have come at a worse time for the choir director, John Masters. It is less than 2 weeks until the next concert, and the choir must perform well if they have any chance to be invited to the state finals. John knows he must find a new tenor and find one fast, but he has no prospective candidates. He goes to the courthouse to solicit Andy's help. When John arrives at Andy's office, he finds Andy, Barney, and Aunt Bee there. After relaying the dreadful news, Andy and Aunt Bee suggest other candidates to fill the void left by Ralph Pritchard, but no one is identified. During the conversation, you can see the wheels in Barney's head spinning. Barney knows who should be the next lead tenor in the Mayberry Choir. Why? The obvious choice would be none other than Barney Fife. A confident Barney drops a hint to John Masters that he has taken voice lessons, a hint that he has to repeat 3 times before John picks up on it. Finally, John asks Barney to join the choir. Barney enthusiastically agrees, but Andy and Aunt Bee aren't so sure. You see, before John Masters arrived at the courthouse, Barney was giving a little concert of his own, and it was painfully obvious that the only person who could appreciate his ability to sing was Barney himself. Later on that evening, the choir meets to practice for the upcoming concert. Barney is excited to be there and take center stage. However, when the choir begins the first number, John Masters immediately recognizes that something is wrong. He thinks he hears a sour note. John begins the song again, and the result is the same. Someone in the choir is definitely singing off key. At this point, Barney jumps down from the stage and whispers to John that he will move around during the singing of the song to see if he can determine who is singing off key. John agrees that this is a good idea, and they start the song one more time. Barney begins moving around the group, and one by one the choir members stop singing when they realize how bad Barney sounds. Eventually, the only one left singing is Barney, and he really does sound terrible. Completely oblivious to the whole situation, Barney whispers to John that he didn't have time to spot the guilty party because John cut him off too soon. It never occurs to Barney that he might be the one singing off key. The episode, Barney and the Choir, is yet another example of our favorite deputy putting himself in the limelight. From the beginning of the episode, it is obvious that Barney has no talent for singing. Even his loving girlfriend, Thelma Lou, states that he can't sing a lick. But that doesn't stop Barney. His desire to be the center of attention gets the best of him. You would think that eventually Barney would learn from his own mistakes, that he would realize that the world doesn't always revolve around him. But time and time again, Barney manages to get himself in a mess. In his efforts to prove himself and to showcase his own abilities, Barney usually ends up needing a helping hand. Fortunately, Barney has a friend like Andy who is always willing to bail him out. When reflecting on Barney and his desire to promote himself, I can't help but think of the Apostle Peter. Peter was also constantly trying to prove himself, but on many occasions he failed. The night that Jesus walked on the water, Peter was eager to prove his faith by walking out to meet the Lord. However, when it actually came down to stepping out of the boat, his faith weakened and he began to sink. Peter boasted that he would always be there to defend Jesus, that he would be the one who would never let him down. But on the night of the crucifixion, Peter denied his friend 3 times. Even after Jesus' death, Peter initially did not believe the first reports of the resurrection, even though Jesus had told him that it would happen. In his quest to be the most faithful follower of Jesus, Peter often missed the boat. His shortcomings seemed to surface when he focused on himself and not on the Lord. You would think that the man who was that close to Jesus, who walked with him and heard his teachings, who witnessed many of his miracles, would never have a problem keeping his priorities straight. You would think that a man in Peter's position would never struggle with the issues of pride, self-reliance, and humility. However, Peter was human and he made mistakes. This realization gives me hope and encouragement as I face the daily struggles in my own life. I would venture to say that Barney Fife is, without a doubt, the most popular character in Mayberry. And I believe that one reason for this is because we can all see a little bit of ourselves in Barney. We can understand his desire to be popular and accepted by others, and we can identify with his tendency to focus on himself and to have an overconfident attitude. However, I also believe we can learn something from Barney. That is, when we do have the attitude that we ourselves are sufficient, chances are we will come up short. As I mentioned before, Barney was fortunate to have a friend like Andy to help him out of the situations he got himself into. We are fortunate as well, like Peter, we have the greatest friend possible who understands what it's like to be human and knows all the trials and temptations we face. A friend who is patient and quick to forgive. A friend who will help us out of any mess we get ourselves into. Isn't it wonderful that we have this kind of friend in Jesus? Thank you for joining me, and I will see you next time.